The recording's up. First thing we can talk about before we get into the session is some just because we have the next 4 sessions together. It's good to get some mindset out of the way to begin here. What should you be focusing on as you're looking to improve at the game and rank up? Because if you're trying to improve, there's some mindsets that will hopefully help you with that process. And one of those is just the continual self-improvement process.
Okay.
Hopefully, at some point, you will be able to just kind of be able to figure out your own problems. I wouldn't want you to eternally need coaching. And though it's always helpful to have somebody else take a look at your gameplay, it's a really handy skill to be able to take a look at your own gameplay and see what's wrong with
Yes.
it and whatnot. So first things first is being able to check that out. You can do this in game and or out of game. This is all really the exact same way that I improved at the game. I started playing in season 3 of Overwatch 1, and I started in silver. And then I climbed to like top 50, top 100 a couple times, and I did all that basically through this process of self-improvement. And that is that while you're playing, you're going to be watching for your mistakes. You can do this when you die. You can do this in between fights, in between games. You can do this watching replays, but it's not a necessity. The big thing is just watching for your mistakes. You want to analyze your mistakes and think through the issues within the mistakes. Then from there you think through the solutions to those mistakes, and then finally you look to apply those solutions. And I'll walk through some of those steps for real quick with example here.
Okay.
The first, it was really easy to give an example for mistakes. A really big obvious one usually is like deaths. Deaths are obviously mistakes. But if I came into the session and I just said, "Oh, I found your problem. You just die too much," and then I stopped there, probably wouldn't leave me a very good review, probably wouldn't leave a tip, right? Because that's pretty basic info. It doesn't really help you very much to know, oh, I died, right?
hmm
So you want to take it a step further and think through not just the surface level mistake, but why did that mistake happen? So the issue within the mistake. So for example, what are some different reasons why people die in Overwatch?
Well, they might overextend. They
Mm-hmm.
might not track the enemy's abilities, so they sort of push when they have a sleep or nade or anti,
Mm-hmm.
or I don't know, and bad positioning, of course.
Yeah. So exactly, poor positioning, overextension, maybe not watching abilities could be like a lack of awareness, and then like miss. And then the other thing you described is maybe like misaggression. Then there's other smaller things like misusage of your own abilities, or maybe you are have poor movement, you're standing still, or you lose a duel, you have poor mechanics, things like that, right?
Yeah.
We mentioned some pretty big ones. So those would be the issues within the mistake, and those actually lend more insight into it because you want to take a look at what are the repetitive reasons why I'm dying. Do I keep overextending? Do I keep pushing out into the open where there's no cover? And usually the solution is pretty simple. Usually it's like the opposite of the problem, right? If you're dying because you're out in the open, well, you probably want to take more cover. If you're dying because you're not paying attention, well, you probably want to look around yourself and be more aware of your surroundings. And then the application, we'll get into the application later on in the session when we have other examples to work with.
Okay.
But you want to look to put that in what the things that you've learned into practice and start working on them so that you don't just have head knowledge, but you're actually putting it into action. And that's really your basic analysis of gameplay is watch for the mistakes, think through this, why is it actually a mistake, and then go from there. Usually the best mistakes to focus on are high impact mistakes as well as repetitive ones, right? Because you might make a mistake, a bad mistake once in a while, but if it only happens once every 10 games, it's not going to be nearly as important to fix as the mistake you make consistently across all of your games, right?
Yes,
All right, cool. All that
makes
makes
sense.
sense.
Yes.
All right, cool. Well, let's hop into the gameplay, and then I'll just be a minute or so while I'm looking for something to talk about.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, okay, this is you.
The payload progresses.
Okay, so firstly, did we? Sorry, I didn't check. What tank heroes do you play? Do you play primarily Junkerqueen? Do you play other tanks?
No, I play primarily Reinhardt and Roadhog.
Reinhardt, Roadhog. Okay, and then Junkerqueen's just another side one. All right.
Yes.
Would you like any insight um, into when to pick which character? Because this would probably be a lot better map for Roadhog in this situation.
Yeah, so that's one of the issues I have in these sort
Mhm.
of games. I mean, I'd like to play Junkerqueen, but
Mhm.
sometimes I know that another tank is a better pick.
Mhm.
But I don't really want to play the other tank. So I mean, if
Mm.
I see a diva, I know that okay, I need to go Zarya for instance.
Mhm.
When I see some Zarya and Genji, I think okay, I need to go Winston. But
Mhm.
I like playing. I mean, when DPS play some hero, they can sort of become one trick main one hero. Whereas I can't do that. So I
Mm.
mean, I'm trying to see if it's possible, if it works out. Because if I see like top 500 plays, I see many players which only play one hero. I
Mhm.
mean, Six plays only Hog, and I think Romani plays only Junkerqueen.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to see if I can do that too, because I know they
Mhm.
are also obviously
Yeah.
better players. But I
Mm.
mean, if they do that in top 500 and it works out for them, it seems strange that I can't do this in flat, and
Yeah.
this,
So
this is not one game.
for sure. So you're completely right. There are players who do that, and the big thing is that like it's really it just kind of depends on how you want to approach it because it does pose a handicap to yourself if you're attempting to play a character into a situation where the character's not good or where there's other people countering you or the map's not good, whatever. It would be a handicap. But the question becomes, okay, do you play another character to avoid the handicap, or do you just try to overcome the handicap by playing enough of that character to learn how to play them even in situations where they're not good, which is something you're able to do. So that's what those players do when you one trick a character is you play them so much that you just figure out how to play them even in situations where the character is not even that great, right? And then it turns from be in those situations it turns from being a you're being at a disadvantage to just not to maybe it's more neutral and you're it's very winnable. So it's up to you if you are wanting to one trick, then you can go for it and try it out and just put a lot of practice into your one character. But if you want to flex around, then you can play more characters and just learn which situation is better for which tank. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of just depends on what style of gameplay you want to go for. But here we'll just presume that you're playing Junkerqueen and you want to play Junkerqueen. You said you play is Junkerqueen the character you want to learn and play more?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would love to play Reinhardt everywhere, but I think he's just
Mm-hmm.
not that good anymore. I mean, I see Cloudy playing him, but I have no idea how he does that.
Mm.
Because in my games, there are sort of times where I just can't do anything. I
Mm.
have to keep up my shield, and if the team behind me doesn't play the game like they're supposed to, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what to do. And of course, I make mistakes just as many as they
Mm-hmm.
do, but sometimes I think I'm playing good, but I can't do anything. So
Mm.
I'm trying out new heroes that I can sort of more solo carry.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure. And I think that's definitely You are definitely going to have more struggles like that with like a character like Reinhardt. But once again, it just kind of comes down to like you're able to figure out how to carry if you even if he's not like the uber meta pick, if you're just
Yeah.
learning how to play him, and I can help you with that process if you're interested. So it's up to you. We can go over Junkerqueen or we can go over Reinhardt. I don't really have an issue with going either direction. But you can get to the point in which you're able to carry with him. It just is going to take probably maybe a little bit different of a play style, or just getting used to playing him in situations where he's not good.
Mhm.
Okay, well, let's keep going. Okay, so we can't really see too much up there. We pull Mercy Black. Okay, so as you can see, we're not very effective from down here, right?
Yes.
You, as Junkerqueen, what's your range? Or what ranged character, if you had to give it, you can say like close range, mid range, long range, close to mid, mid to long. What range would you say Junkerqueen is?
I'm close to mid.
Yeah.
Mid to close, yeah.
Yeah. Even I'd say even probably a bit more towards close range. Like she has a little bit of she can kind of poke a little bit of the mid range, right? If she lands a knife, but even then, like the knife is pulling them into the close range where she can use her carnage and she can actually shoot people. If you're shooting people from like 15 meters, you're barely doing any damage with her shotguns, right? So
Yes.
that would just mean that she's pretty close ranged as a character. So, what is a way here? Right, we're right back up on this high ground here, right? And we're thinking, how do we get to them? Right here, what is something you could do to get to them?
Go from the right side.
Yeah, go from the right side, right? We can just pretty easily just run up along this, and then we're just like right on top of Mercy. We can contest this high ground. There's Ana, there's Sojourn up here, so that would be a pretty good idea. They would also give you like as you're running over here, it'd maybe give you an angle on the body, so you can defend from getting Maga rezzed, which is going to be super handy because you could keep Mercy off of the body. So that would probably be the play to go for here instead of just dropping to low ground.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, kind of getting lost on our target here. So we land the knife. We like look away from Sojourn for some reason. And then we kind of lose track of where she's at. It's unfortunate. Very nice. So it seems that sometimes we're getting lost as to where characters are when we land our carnage, or like when they get on top of us. Like here, Mercy's on top of you, and you can see that she's like right on top of you. We're kind of like, where'd she go, kind of deal. So
Yeah.
different things that could be helpful with this is, firstly, you could of yourself maybe back, if she's like on top of your head, you can back up so that you get her in front of you. So you move your own body. It could be something that could be handy here. So instead of just like standing still and trying to spin around, right? Because if you're spinning around, she could be, if she's on top of your head here or wherever, she could be like anywhere in a 360 radius. But if you step backwards, then that puts her in front of you, which would make it so that you can actually see her and hit her. So just stepping backwards can help you. And then also this maybe just seems like a bit of an awareness issue where like we're just losing track of people when they get on top of you. So that seems to be a continuous thing that's popping up here.
Yeah, I think I forgot that Malga's coming back.
So, death. So we can kind of look at this analysis, right? Death happens, right? That's the mistake. Why would you say the death happens here?
Yeah, awareness.
Awareness, right? Because we didn't know Malga was coming back, or we weren't paying attention, right? I agree.
Yes.
Okay, so we land this. Problem is that only Malga's here at the moment. I think we kind of once again lose track of where the rest of their team's at. Here, maybe we thought Ana was closer, so once again...
I saw Mercy in the range, and I thought I could get to Ana, but Mercy flew up and Ana hit, so...
Yep, so maybe a bit more of, like, awareness here of where people are, because Ana is close here, you see her, but she's backing up. Maybe we rush it a tad bit instead of like taking our time to place it properly. Very nice. So far, shouts have been pretty decent. Oh, really good. Oh, she's 1 HP.
Yeah.
Okay, we die here. What would you say is the issue?
I overextended. There was no one with me, and I sort of went for trying to get one pick, but I didn't realize that the whole team was behind me. Their team.
Yep. So overextension, awareness, right? So knowing where their team's at. And knowing where your team's at, right? So a good habit to be in for your own sake of knowing where your team is just before pushing, just do a quick 360, check where your team's at. That way you're not pushing in thinking they're with you and when really they're not.
Personne n'échappe à mon regard.
My soul will ignite. The payload sets out on its course.
No, it's unfortunately for him.
This ends now.
Probably want to. Whoopsie, I didn't mean to skip there. Probably want to put a little bit of pressure on here. We keep looking at the Ana, even though we don't have knife yet. But we go. There we go. And now we put pressure on her, so that's good. Going pretty smooth for the moment. Right now, so generally speaking, when it comes to cart pushing, you have 2 pushes per point generally, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
get here, you push for half of it. You fight. You usually have like 2 fights per point when on cart payload maps, right? So we push it around here and we fight around here, which is what happened before, and then you fight somewhere around this last stretch. Same thing again. You fight around this first corner, right? And then you fight either around the second corner or the last stretch here, right? So usually there's about 2 fights, right? It can be more if you lose them. It can be less if you stagger them. But if you get 2 full team fights in, it's going to be 2 full team fights. So generally speaking, it's the tank's responsibility to watch the cart on the second half, because that's when you're about to cap point, and generally there's going to be a lot more of a rush panic to go and contest cart when you're like right about the cap, right? They're going to all be rushing the point, and then it's really dangerous to have anybody else besides the tank, right? So that's usually tank's job. But on this first push here, it's not usually the tank's job. Usually it's the support's job to be on point, because the tank wants to be pushed forwards to take space. Like here we can go and be pressuring this Sigma who's super far up ahead of his whole team, but instead we're kind of just chilling back on cart, when alternatively Ana could be pushing cart, and we don't need more than 2 people on at a time. You never really need more than 2 unless you think you can cap before they touch. Because no matter what, we're going to have those 2 fights to play, whether we have 1 or 3 people on. So pushing forwards and taking out this Sigma, probably going to be more valuable than just sitting back on cart. And here Ana can probably take it instead. Does that all make sense?
Yes.
Cool. I think you have someone sneaking up behind you. Oh, no, never mind. I thought I heard something. Maybe I'm just insane. Maybe it was like the McCree walking back from spawn or something like that. I like the knives and the carnages. Those are good. Oh, that is very unfortunate. That was like superb timing on his part there.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. That stopped you from getting 2 of them. He's probably still win this. Still insane. Very nice. Alright, cool. We're gonna go over some mechanic stuff at some point here. Alright, so we die. What's the issue with this one?
I thought my team was behind me, so I sort of I miscalculated the time that Bastion turret stands for. So I thought, okay, now he goes out of turret and I can push them a bit. But obviously I didn't track even the abilities. Also, I miscalculated the Bastion turret.
Yeah.
And there was no one behind me at all.
Yeah, so you're right. Even if you calculated the Bastion turret correctly, then they still had sleep, and then even if you watched all of their abilities, probably still isn't in a good play because you don't have teammates close behind you, right? They're all chilling super far back here, which is just going to mean that you're going to be in a rough spot trying to push, which is going to be pretty hard in general, because what is, besides yourself, what composition is the rest of your team running?
I don't know the name, but they're not diving.
Yeah, they would be primarily a poke or spam composition. Would be like the what it would be called. Very long ranged characters, right? Echo,
Hmm.
Echo's divey poke, right? So long ranged, long ranged. Ana can be divey brawl. And what character are you?
Sort of dive, I'd say.
No, so you'd actually be more of a brawl composition. So dive is going to be characters that are, I don't have the chart on me. Let's see if I
That have
have.
vertical mobility.
Yeah, who have lots of mobility. They can, so like think like Monkey, Diva, Wrecking Ball, Doomfist. Those are all dive characters because they can get from here to up to the high ground instantly, right?
Hmm.
Junkerqueen is more of a brawl character because yes, she wants to go in, but she's a little bit slower and she's tankier and she's closer range than they are. So those are gonna be brawl characters. Like Reinhardt is like that. So they would be more brawl characters, so they're close range characters. So right now, the point I'm trying to make is that your play style is at conflict with the rest of your team because while you're trying to run in and play, and brawl compositions want to play fast and they want to play close. I'm going to send you a chart really quickly if I can find one. I don't have it on this computer that I'm on, so let me see if I can.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if I have it. Oh, I might have it in this right here. All right. There we go. Okay. Copy link. Here we go.
Okay, yeah, I see
Right.
it.
Yep. So, your dive comp usually is pretty average. They start off far away, they dive in close. They can usually play slow and then they speed up as they get kills and as they get ults and things like that. Or you can just go for a hard dive where you just like go in and you play fast, right? You just go. And then you have brawl, which because they're close ranged characters, they generally want to play fast because if you're going slowly, then you're just kind of like sitting around and not really doing anything. Spam composition is the exact opposite of brawl. They are all long-ranged characters, so because of that, they want to play slowly because the slower the fight goes, the more time they have to sit back and just go pew 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 and shoot you from their comfortable range that they're at, right? Um,
Is that like Ramatra, Riza?
yeah, Ramatra and Orisa are a bit more of a brawly spam because
Okay.
they can get in brawling. Roadhog, I guess a little bit less of Roadhog since I guess some changes, but still I'd say like a little bit of Roadhog is probably a bit spammier than Brawl, and then
Okay.
Sigma's probably the best example of a spam
Okay, yeah.
character, right? Then so they're pretty opposite. There's a rough rock paper scissors here where spam is a little bit better than a brawl comp because it puts the win condition. Brawl needs to get on top of them, so brawl needs to go and actively do something to win, whereas spam just naturally wins and they just stay away. So spam has the advantage; they can just sit away from brawl and brawl can't do anything. Brawl has an advantage against dive because dive likes to blow up squishy targets. Brawl is usually tankier, as well as the fact that they like close range. So when you dive into them, they just like that, right? They prefer it. So
Yes.
then dive counter spam because spam likes to play far away and just have time to shoot you. But if dive can get on spam instantly, then they don't have time to shoot you from far away. It's no longer far away, and they can and usually spam is a bit squishier and they can blow people up. So there's a rough rock paper scissors. Um, in your game, like I was saying, your whole team is besides you and Ana, it's like three spam characters, two brawl characters, right? And you have some characters that that work decent with brawl, like Zen works decent with brawl, and Hanzo works decent with brawl. All of them work okay with brawl, but they are going to become more comfortable at their spam ranges, which is what you see here, right? Everyone's just sitting back and chilling, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have, what I'm saying here is that you have to be careful about pushing in super deep, because you're not going to have your team right behind you like you would if you were running a full brawl composition. So you have to keep in mind that team composition dictates play style. When you're on a different team composition, you play differently. When the enemy team is on a different composition, you play differently. Does all that make sense? Any questions?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, makes sense. Makes sense.
Yep. Okay, so once again, overextension here. Gotta watch your teammates, a little bit of awareness. Oh, that is really unfortunate. So, some deaths you can do a lot of things about. Other deaths, not really much you can do about. Like here, you use Transcendence right below where you're at, but the problem is you get slammed onto the high ground instead of the low ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that you were expecting that. I probably wouldn't be expecting that. So I mean, like, there's maybe, like, you could say there's like a little bit of like awareness involved. Like you could have paid attention, looked around, but like this is probably more so unfortunate. So it's more excusable than some of the other deaths, right?
Yes.
And you get slept to midair, so it's not like you could have moved around very easily. Okay, so let's talk about like a little bit of application, right? Because we've come up with an example, right? Awareness seems to be one that keeps coming up pretty consistently. Maybe some easily preventable deaths, so a bit of survivability is coming up. So how do we look to put that into action? So we've identified the issue, we've identified the solution to awareness, right? If you're not paying attention and you're dying because you're not paying attention, then the solution is paying attention. And you put that, well, you might be asking, right, well, how do I pay attention better? Because that seems a bit vague. How do I look and hear and see better? It's that seems a little bit weird. Well, you put this into practice the exact way that you put really anything you're trying to work on into practice, and that is that while you're playing, you want to make sure that you're actively focusing on the thing you're trying to work on. So, for example, awareness here. You want to make sure that you're not autopiloting, you're not just playing to play, and contrary to popular belief, you're not just trying to play to win, but instead you're playing to improve. And when you play to improve, then you'll actually start going places. And what that will look like in your gameplay is you're going to come into your game and you're going to think to yourself, awareness, 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 awareness. Look around, look around, look around, look around. Watch, 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 right? And you're giving yourself this constant stream of reminders to think about paying attention. And when you think about paying attention, then you'll probably pay attention more. And when you pay attention more, then your awareness is better. And when your awareness is better, then if you do it long enough, it'll form it as a positive habit. Once it gets formed into the habit, then it just comes a lot more naturally. You'll just naturally be paying attention. You won't even need to focus on it as much. And then you move on to the next thing to work on from there. And that's the cycle of improvement. And then final thing is this: just don't try to do everything all at once, because that can get overwhelming. So pick out a category of things to work on, or even 1 to 3 smaller things within a category to work on. Does that all make sense? Any questions on it?
No, makes sense. Yeah, I agree.
All right, cool. Alright, so we die. Let's see, pay attention. Let's see, why do we die once again? Because we seem to be dying a decent bit at the moment. Okay, so we get the kill. That's good.
Yeah, I guess the Bastion ability, the nade, the McCree spam, everything.
So what could have? I mean, like if it helps to think about it this way, what could have prevented that?
Sort of standing a bit more behind. I didn't really know what was behind the May wall, so I needed to stand a little far back.
So maybe not being as far forward. So maybe like after you get the kill and you see that you're purple already. So after you get the kill, maybe backing up right away, right? Instead of continuing to push forward. So just like managing your aggression. So instead of just going, you push in, then you back out, and then you push in and you back out, right? Depending on the situation. So being a bit careful with when you push and when you back. So backing up sooner, maybe using cover, right? And being out of their line of sight are things that can help. Let's see, survivability. We've died a decent bit, and sometimes they feel a bit preventable. So let's see if we can find some of these deaths here. I just want to do a really quick head count. Oh, I thought I guess I didn't. Okay. Let's see if we can get a count going. So it's one death, one. Was that?
Was two?
Oh, was that two there?
Yeah.
No, no, you get slept, and then you stay alive here.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so that's one still. So we actually did decent on the first point. That's two there. We actually did decent. I think third point is where we keep it up more. Maybe I'm skipping over some. This is 3 in a moment. 3. Then this is gonna be 4. And this is gonna be 5. So it's actually maybe more accurately the death rate itself doesn't seem horrible, but maybe it's just the fact that they're easily preventable deaths, and sometimes we're dying like first thing in the fight, which isn't going to be good. Like the last 2 deaths were first thing, so if we can cut down on how many deaths we're having, because obviously deaths are bad because we lose value, we lose a lot of time in our game, we lose the ability to do things, and also it's just an active it's not just a lack of things, it's an active disadvantage for our team. So cutting back on those is going to be really important. Got to watch survivability and staying alive. Also, I think aggression scaling might be handy to go over here, because some of these deaths are due to overextension. So
Yes.
discussing how do you manage your aggression, right? How do you know when do I push, when do I back up? Aggression scaling is really, it's a tool is what it is. It's a way to think about your aggression in a way that allows you to kind of gauge where you should be. So aggression scaling is imagining your aggression as if it were on a scale, with 0% as super passive and 100% as super aggressive. And right in the middle, 50% is like your neutral. Generally, you're going to come into each fight at a neutral because there's not very much else going on yet. So you're just kind of at your neutral. And neutral doesn't mean you're sitting around doing nothing, but it also doesn't mean that you're pushing in to their spawn and running into the middle of their team, right? Neutral means you're poking and prodding and trying and doing your normal thing. You're not uber pushing, you're not backing out, right? Now you're going to go up this scale with opportunities and with advantages. You're going to go down the scale with disadvantages, with a lack of resources, and with danger. So let me define a couple of these. Advantages and disadvantages. So advantages and disadvantages are we can keep them simple and complex, right? Simple version is just watch kills, right? If you are up a person, you go from 50% to 60%. You get more aggro. You're up 2 people, you go to 70. 3 people, 80. 4 people, 90. And so forth, right? So you just go up the scale when you're up people. when you're down people, you go down the scale. You're down a person, you go to 40%. You're down 2 people, you go to 30%, and so forth, right? So that's the very simple basics. But then there's a lot of other things that go into your advantages and disadvantages as well, which you got to just keep in mind and think through, right? Things such as which team has more health, which team has better positioning, which team has closer spawns, which team has more ability and is using more abilities or more ults, things like that, right? So you got to think through all those other things as well, and those also make up advantages and disadvantages. Opportunities, which also go up the scale, are going to be things such as you see somebody who's low HP, or somebody who's out of position, or you have your ultimate and you're pushing in with that, right? So those are like opportunities to go get a kill or get value. And usually you can be a bit more aggressive to go and use them. You just gotta be careful with it. You can also you go down the scale with danger, right? Obviously, if you see like a diva bomb right next to you, probably don't want to be pushing, or if they're using a bunch of ults or something like that, you probably don't want to be pushing. And then a lack of resources. So resources are going to be things like your health bar or your abilities. So specifically, I would point out like your commanding shout, right? So if you shout, gives you extra health and speed and things like that. So if you don't have that, you can't be as aggressive because you're going to be down a safety ability. And then if you don't have any health, then you can't be pushing, right? Even if somebody else is low, you're just going to die if you try to push, right? So that will pull you down the scale, right? So let me give you a quick example. You're pushing into a fight, you're at 50%. You see somebody who is 1 HP, so you go, and then you get headshot. So now you're 0 HP, or 1 HP, and you need to back up, and therefore you just went from 50 to 100 to 0, all in the course of like 1 second. So this can be pretty fluctuating. Sometimes it can be stagnant, right, for a little bit, but sometimes during the middle of the fight it might fluctuate pretty quickly. So you just gotta be aware of your surroundings, because awareness directly impacts your aggression. You won't know when to go in or when to back out if you don't know what's happening around you. And then besides that, like I said before, this will just become second nature if you work on it and just form it into a habit, right? When I'm playing in my games, I don't have to think to myself, where am I on the scale, right? But because at this point, while I'm playing, it's a snap of fingers. Like I just know, I push now, I back up now. I push now, I back up now. But when you're starting off with it and you're trying to just get into the groove of it, this can be a helpful tool to try to identify where you're at. So thinking about it more frequently will be handy to forming those habits. Does all that make sense? Any questions on it?
Makes sense, yes.
Right? Cool.
The payload rests. We must join as one.
My ultimate is
Okay, so we do have our team. Maze walking back a little bit. Okay, so this is cool.
10 seconds.
We're running out of time.
Oh, that's so unfortunate. You got 2 ults canceled here. You can try just. I mean, like, the only thing I could possibly say here is that I'm not. He might have even been watching for it here because he sees you pushing. Because you kind of telegraph it here because you get nanoed and then you're just kind of like walking in a straight line towards their team. So he might have even thrown it at you because you were pushing so hard into them. So with a nano boost, could have been why he was throwing it. So potentially. You can try using it quicker with being less obvious behind it, not like walking in a straight line into their team to try not to get stunned out of it.
So it'll be less obvious.
Yeah. Oh, that's unfortunate.
Fires incoming.
I was sort of trying something here.
Nobody runs. Here, Gracie.
Isaiah.
What?
Yeah, they were calling the Ash top, so I was sort of looking for her.
Pick up your feet, you drongo. Thank you.
Okay. So you can see kind of in a dangerous situation, not very fun. Let's talk about the concept of no man's land and choke points and things like that. So you've been playing the game for a long time. Are you familiar with choke point and that term? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Could you define what a choke point is for me?
I say it is.
A sort of a point where you stand, where you have a cover, so you can like peek, do some damage, and when you're in danger, you can just hide. So for instance, this pillar we could be considered as choke point. For instance, corners are
This
choke
corner?
points.
So
Yeah, this corner.
I think you're on the right. You correctly identified that this is a choke point right here, right? But I think for the wrong reason. You said that there's cover, but there's also cover in other places that isn't a choke, right? Like this is cover right here, and this isn't a choke, right? What makes this a choke point is because it's a funnel, right? It's a small little condensed area that they have to push through, which means that if someone's standing in it or a team standing in it, all of our damage is gonna connect, right? Because it's so small of an area. If you have a really wide area, you're gonna miss shots and things are gonna miss and just kind of go all over the place. But in this really condensed area, all of your damage is gonna do something, right? Because it's it's a choke. It's a tiny little area. So that'd be kind of like what a choke point is. It's the funnel is what it is. Now, when you're defending a choke point, where should you be standing? Standing in the front of it, standing in the middle of it, standing behind it.
Behind it.
Behind it. Correct, right? That's because you want to let them go through it, and you want to not put yourself in it. If we're holding in the front or the middle, then you are standing in the front of it, where they can just kill you here. They don't even have to go through the choke point to get the point to kill you and win the fight. And also, you end up putting yourself and your team in the poor positioning. But if you hold at the back of it, then they have to come through it to get to point. Right? Make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Are you familiar with what a no man's land is?
No.
No. So no man's land is a very, very similar to choke points, except for it's a little bit different. But it has very similar concepts. A no man's land is any long stretch of open space where there's not a lot of cover, right? So if we're just trying to if let's say that's point over there, we're trying to get from here to there. There's this long stretch of open space where there's not a lot of cover, so they can just kind of shoot you the whole time you're trying to run through this, right? And that's, once again, not really good positioning, because if you're standing in it, then you're going to be running into problems where they can just shoot you and you can't do anything about it, right? So once again, not good for you. So if you're defending, so let's say they're trying to get to point and you're defending point, the exact same concept. You don't want to hold in the front. You don't want to hold in the middle, because then they don't have to push through it. And on top of that, not only don't they have to push through it, but you're putting yourself and your team in it. Whereas instead, if we hold at the back of it, well, then they have to come to point to get point, and your whole team can shoot them the whole time they're approaching. Even if you're on a brawly character that likes to be closer, if you just bide your time and wait for them to get closer, they have to come to you, and they'll come to your range, right? So we can just poke and poke and poke with our team, let them get closer, and then we can engage when they get closer. Right?
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And then attacking. When you're attacking these, generally it's you just try to go through because you don't want to stay in it, so you want to get through it as quickly as possible, as well as using as much cover as possible. You're gonna just go from one cover to the next cover as you're approaching. That way, you're not out in the open. So there on that other map, Junkertown, a lot of times high level gameplay, you'll hold the high ground instead of being like really close in their spawn. Kind of depends. If you're running like a really full brawl, then you can push up to there. But if you're because especially since half your team is spam, you'd usually hold the high ground and then just let them keep pushing it until they reach that choke point where you can just drop and hold behind the boxes.
Okay.
Okay. Well, let's get into the wrap-up review of the session. Because I have a session right after this, so I want to just make sure we're on time here. So, wrap-up review, main points, ability usage. Gracie's pretty decent, not always accurate, but doing pretty good for the most part. Carnage, just the big thing was just like sometimes we'd like lose track of people. Like we'd be like right here and we'd be like, where'd they go? So once we said before, like we said before, just back up a little bit so that we put them into our line of sight if they're on top of you, so we can just try to track where they're at. And that comes back to awareness a little bit. Shout's pretty good. So overall ability usage, not perfect, but low to medium priority for you to work on.
Okay.
Next comes your ult usage. Ult usage, it got canceled a couple times, so just got to be careful about being too obvious with it. You have to find a fine line between making sure you're not rushing it to where you just don't hit anybody with it, while also not just like running in a straight line and and letting them stun you, right? So I think probably you make sure that there's people to ult, make sure so that comes back to awareness, and then make sure that you're doing it kind of as a surprise and not just like with everybody staring straight at you and being able to shoot you and stun you. So if you're executing it and you see all of them there, you don't have to wait 5 seconds to do it. Overall, that one is probably a bit over your abilities, probably like a lower end of a medium or so. Next comes mechanics. Mechanics, we didn't really talk too much about mechanics. I actually meant to at some point, but we can go over it at a future session. I'd say primarily the big thing is just aim for headshots more frequently, but I didn't have time to go in depth on that at all. And then overall, there's maybe some target priority stuff, but we didn't really talk on mechanics too much. So we can come to that in a future session. So overall for the moment, low to medium. Next comes your positioning. Make sure you're using cover. Good positioning is the usage of cover. Bad positioning is the absence of cover. Watch your no man's land and choke point usages. Make sure you're not overextending and pushing in, but that kind of also is related to aggression as well. Overall positioning is like a medium priority or so. Then next comes your awareness/aggression, right? Awareness/aggression. Remember, awareness directly impacts your aggression. You gotta know what's happening to know what to do. So pay attention to your surroundings. Watch where is your team at, where's the enemy team at. Don't just walk around doing like slow pans, right? You don't want to just do this in your gameplay. You want to like do when you're approaching places, do 360s, look around yourself, do 180s, look up, look left, look right. Check your surroundings before you push, right? Instead of just pushing, always check behind you and to make sure your team's with you, and then push. Pay attention to team comps. Team comp dictates play style. Think about all the different team comps we mentioned. And then finally just put that all into action with your aggression, right? Watch the aggression scaling. 0% is super passive. 50% is neutral. 100% is super aggressive. Go up the scale with opportunities and advantages, go down with disadvantages, a lack of resources, and with danger. And that's about it. Overall, that one is probably like higher end of a medium. So to put that all in order, number 1 was awareness/aggression, 2 positioning, 3 ult usage, 4 ability usage, 5 mechanics with still stuff in it. But I just didn't really mention too much on it this session. Any final questions?
Yes, the Carnage, does it work like Reinhardt's hammer? Can you do a 360 and hit the targets? I mean, in front and behind.
I think it's a bit quicker, so you might struggle to hit like a 180 on people.
Okay.
You can definitely swing it and hit multiple people, but I don't know if you're able to. You probably have to be like really quick with it if you're trying to get.
Okay,
Trying to get
and
multiple
the
people.
the knife, does it only pull towards you? I mean, can you?
Yes.
I know that if you okay, so you can't like use him
Okay.
use this as a Roadhog's hook and hook people off the map. You can if you're standing in between the
Yeah.
hole.
Yep.
Okay.
So you can only you could only do this.
Okay.
But you
Yes.
can't target where you pull them. Yeah.
Okay, so
they're
this
only
doesn't
around-
work.
Mhm,
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, that's all
Alright.
for me.
Sounds good. Well, I'll get you your recording. I'll just